Hello, welcome to La Excellence. Welcome to the Hindu News Analysis. As Rambabu sir has other commitments, I'm recording the video today. Sir will continue the sessions from tomorrow onwards regularly. Right, let us start the discussion with our first article. The first article is with regard to health. The article states states cannot make isolated plans for vaccine distribution. Here, first thing that we should remember is no vaccine as of now, as of today, no vaccine has been conclusively proven safe. That means most of the vaccines are under trial stage only. Some of the Chinese companies and Japanese companies, they have made vaccine, but remember they are also still under phase 3. And there is this vaccine, Oxford University vaccine, that has a promising prospective. Let us see how it comes up, but as of now we should know that no vaccine has been conclusively tested as safe and efficient. Right, that is one point. Now, why does state wants to distribute the vaccines? Remember, health is a state subject and state wants to distribute them. Recently, you might have observed in the elections, Bihar elections, they have promised that some political parties promised that if they win in the election, they are going to distribute it for free. Like that, many states have already made plans for vaccine distribution if anyone proves efficient and safe. Now, what the central government under Ministry of Health said is, we are giving you certain guidelines. Please follow these guidelines and let us have a common framework for vaccine distribution, because vaccine procurement and distribution should not be done on a haphazard manner. Yes, it should be decentralized, but there are certain guidelines which everyone should follow, and there is a time bound process wherein we release you. Here we means health, Ministry of Health releases certain guidelines. Based on that only, state should distribute the vaccines. This is the gist of this particular article. Remember, again cases are increasing. There are certain terms that are in use now. What are they? Second wave, herd immunity. These are all the terms that we are hearing now, right? In case of sudden surge of cases, the state should follow 3T model. What is that 3T model? Test, trace and treat model. Test, trace and treat model, that should be followed. These are some of the guidelines that the Ministry of Health has released for the states. In this context, we need to remember one important infrastructural initiative. What is that? EVIN, Electronic Vaccine Intelligence Network, that tracks and the entire supply chain of vaccines. That needs to be put in place, that needs to be tracked and monitored by the center and states. That should be the way forward. The next important article is with regard to the recent land law of Jammu and Kashmir. What is that? Earlier we know we had Article 35A, Article 370. These two articles have given special status to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, instead of the state, we have two union territories. One Jammu and Kashmir, the second one is Ladakh Union Territory. And for the Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory, recently, through the President of India, the central government has passed an order with regard to the land laws. What does these land laws say? They have consolidated various laws that were existing and they have made one single order. Under that, it is said that, first point, no agricultural land can be used for non-agricultural purposes except, remember, except with the permission of district collector. That means district collector, if approves, agricultural land can be converted as a non-agricultural land. That is first thing. Second thing, agricultural land which constitutes 90% of the total land of the Jammu and Kashmir cannot be sold to the outsider. It should be sold to the Jammu and Kashmir resident only. That is second thing. There is one more point which has become very controversial. That point is, there are exceptions to this particular thing. What are they? For strategic purposes, for industrial development, for any public purpose, the governor can order the land diversion. That is seen as a violation of the promise given to the Jammu and Kashmir people. Earlier, they were enjoying the exclusive rights over their land. Under Article 35A, only the permanent residents of the state of Jammu and Kashmir are eligible to buy and sell the land within the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Erstwhile Jammu and Kashmir. Now, anyone can go and buy, but not the agricultural land. But you know that the first point is under the with the authority of district collector, agricultural land can be converted into non-agricultural land, and non-agricultural land can be bought by anyone, can be a resident of Jammu and Kashmir or an outsider. That is seen as a violation of the promise. While dividing the state of Jammu and Kashmir, our Home Minister has assured that the land rights of the locals will be protected. But now they are protesting that you haven't stood on your promise and you are diluting whatever protections that we had. But the Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor said that yes, we have safeguards. Whatever we have done, this is for the development. This is for the development, industrial development of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. But remember, land is a state subject. In this case, as Jammu and Kashmir is no longer a state, central government is going for issuing these orders. Remember, any time concurrence of locals, concurrence of people's representatives through maybe political parties, that should be done while enacting these laws. Otherwise, what happens? Misuse will be more, and people gets alienated. Already there's so much of criticism for bifurcation. Before that also there was so much of anti government thing in Jammu and Kashmir. So now concurrence with political parties might have been good. The next article is with regard to Rajiv Gandhi assassination, and the people who were convicted in this particular case, they were asking for pardon from this governor of Tamil Nadu. So with regard to that issue, what is the stand of Supreme Court? That we should know from this particular article. This belongs to our polity. To understand this, let us understand the history of this case first, and then let us deal with the polity issues in this. Here if you can see, so there's a timeline of Rajiv Gandhi's assassination in the month of May 1991. While he was at party campaign for the elections, upcoming elections, he was assassinated in a place called Sri Perumbudur near Chennai. And there 26 people were arrested in this particular case. Finally, in the year 1998, TADA means terrorism and disruptive activities. Earlier we had a law called that, Terrorism and Disruptive Activities Prevention Act. Under that act, Special Court of TADA has awarded death penalty to all these 26 accused. And then they went to Supreme Court. Supreme Court has confirmed the death of only 4 people, and then 3 others were given life sentence. Again, these people have filed a review petition. One person called Nalini, whom you can see here, Nalini, she was given life sentence, life term. This is called commutation from a death sentence to life sentence, commuted to life term by the Tamil Nadu governor in the year 2000. And then center received mercy petitions from many of these people who were convicted. President of India kept on rejecting all these mercy pleas. And then in the year 2014, Supreme Court has commuted death sentence of the other 3 convicts. Nalini is one whose death sentence was already commuted. And in this case, in the year 2014, Supreme Court has commuted the death sentence of other 3 people because of inordinate delay in executing that. Then after that, Tamil Nadu has proposed to remit the sentence. Remit means reduce. Remit the sentence of all the accused, of all the 7 convicts. But Supreme Court said, See, you cannot take the decision unilaterally. That means Tamil Nadu cannot take the decision unilaterally because this crime comes under terrorism, comes under centralist list also. So you need to take the concurrence of central government. Central government didn't agree. Tamil Nadu has written many a times to the center and they have not agreed. And then what is the point that they are mentioning? Why the central government is not agreeing for this? They said, we don't see these people whom the court has convicted, all these have participated. All these are part of this, but they are not the planners. Who might be the person or group of people who have ordered for this particular assassination? That should be known, yes or no? So there is one person who said, someone came and they have asked me for batteries. I have provided them the batteries. I didn't ask them the purpose. I just gave them the batteries. And you have arrested me and kept me in jail for the last 20 years. So is it justifiable? That's one of the accused is Perivalan. His name is Perivalan. He says, yes, I have given them the batteries, but I don't know that their purpose is this. I have given them. So likewise, there are many convicts in this list. The list of convicts, they don't know the plot. They don't know what others are going to do. But the one person who was managing this entire thing, they have gathered the help of all these people. They don't know what is the end purpose. They all participated unknowingly. They were given the sentence. That's the problem now. As of now, from 1991, now it is 2020. We don't know who have ordered for this. Where is the origin? We don't know. Then Supreme Court said, see, center, you are still awaiting for the proof from various countries. But then these people have spent a lot of time in jail, almost their half of life in jail, youth life in jail. So why don't you consider the mercy petition? And then they have given the approval for the governor of the state. Yes, you can consider the mercy petitions of these people under Article 161. Under Article 161, governor has the power. Governor has the power to approve the mercy petition, except in death sentences. Death sentences can only be pardoned by President of India. Death sentences cannot be pardoned by the governor of any state. This is the overview of this article. The next important article is with regard to Indian society. There are two states, Uttar Pradesh and Haryana. These two states have proposed to enact a law, a specific law to curb love jihad. What is this love jihad? This is one of the important term that we often listen, wherein it is said that to convert more people into Islam, the Muslim men are luring women to marry and then they are converting these women to Islam. That's how people have defined love jihad as. But marriage is an intimate thing. It's a personal choice, right? Government cannot say that you cannot marry this person, you cannot marry this person. That is not the role of the government. That is not the role of the law. Yes or no? That's an individual choice. If they like, they can marry. But there is an accusation that conversion of people into a particular religion only to get married is not constitutional. Yes or no? If you have the faith, real faith in you, then you can convert into any religion. But not for any benefit like marriage, like money, like some other benefit. If you are converting from one religion to other religion, that is not religious at all. If you are converting because you like the tenets of that particular religion, that is okay. But just to marry, converting into one religion is not appropriate. That's the Allahabad High Court's judgment. But see, you need not convert into a religion. There is a particular act called Special Marriages Act. Under that, interreligious marriages are allowed. So why a law should allow it? Because after the marriage, we need to get the marriage certificate. Hindu Marriage Act is there, like that many acts are there. So for interfaith pair, what is the act to get the marriage certificate? That is the Special Marriage Act. Using that, interfaith marriage can be done. So forging the choices and negating the choices of people under such laws is going to hurt the freedoms. Freedom of marry is an individual choice. It's part of Article 21, which is individual's life and liberty. Yes or no? So that's why the heading says uncivil proposal. Here remember, I am not supporting the conversions. Conversions without any religious bent of mind is not good, is inappropriate. But conversions, if you like that, is good. The next article belongs to environment. This article says fossil fuel companies. Fossil fuel companies are getting hurt by what? There are many companies. What is fossil fuel, by the way? Fossils turning into fuel like crude oil, natural gas, coal. These are considered fossil fuels, yes or no? These fossil fuel companies like crude oil extracting companies or shale gas extracting companies or coal mining companies, these companies, any company for that matter, they need to get investment, yes or no? But banks and other investors, they are turning away from investing into these fossil fuel companies. Why? Why? Because they see future in renewables. They see future in solar, wind, etc. And they see these industries as polluting. And there are movements across various countries wherein stakeholders, especially the shareholders, etc., they are seeing for green avenues. That is why these companies are getting less investments, less credit available for the investment. Is that good or bad? Good. On a long term, and as we know, climate change is claiming all of us. Floods, droughts, we are experiencing severe disasters. So to control all these things, to manage all these things, fossil fuel consumption should be reduced. For that, fossil fuel companies should turn to alternatives, other renewable alternatives which are clean. Yes or no? So reducing investments into these companies, is it good? Yes, it is good. But over a short period of time, they might go bankrupt. That might hurt the economy. That we should manage, but over a long and medium term, it is a good development. The next article is with regard to Malabar exercises. This belongs to our international relations. So Malabar exercise. First time the Malabar exercise was conducted in the year 1992, and this is the 24th edition of Malabar exercise. USA and India were partners in this particular joint navy exercise. Later, Japan joined, and recently in the year 2020, Australia has joined in this particular Malabar exercise. And this is going to be conducted in two phases. Phase 1 in Bay of Bengal region, phase 2 in the Arabian Sea region. This year, this is very, very important because especially the Arabian Sea part, which has choke point called Strait of Malacca. Strait of Malacca is very, very sensitive region. Why is it called choke point? It is one of the important trade routes for whom? For other countries as well as for China. So if we can block that, yes or no? That's an economic choke. So that's why that point is called as choke point for many countries. Right. So we are conducting this exercise Malabar in two places, one Bay of Bengal, two in the Arabian Sea. And apart from this exercise Malabar, this article also consists of this particular thing called Mission Sagar 2. What is this Mission Sagar? So we are helping the COVID-19 pandemic hit countries, our neighboring countries, especially the maritime neighbors, with food and medicines. That mission is called Mission Sagar. Mission Sagar 1 was already completed. Now we are in Mission Sagar 2. We have sent food and other items to Sudan. Sudan is an East African country. The next article is with regard to fortified food. This comes under social justice nutrition topic. So what is fortified food? In general, in the food, if see, let's say iodine is important. It's a micronutrient. So we are mixing it up with salt. So that's called as fortified. Because we are using some micronutrient, we are including some micronutrient into this particular salt. Similarly, there are certain food types like rice which are fortified with certain vitamins called vitamin A, etc. So these foods are called fortified foods. Now, there are many people in our country, especially the children, under 5 children, who are suffering from eye related diseases, especially due to vitamin A deficiency. So, to address all that, the government has started this fortified rice distribution through our midday meal scheme. Midday meal scheme under ICDS. What is ICDS? Integrated Child Development Scheme. Under ICDS and midday meal scheme, fortified food is being supplied. Initially, it was started in 5 states. Now we are including other states and we are extending this particular scheme to all the states in the country. Initially, 112 districts, which are called as aspirational districts, were given the focus. Now, overall, all the states are given the same focus. From the next year onwards, fortified rice is going to be part of midday meal in all schools. Our final article for the day is with regard to exports. Exports fall again on global trade wars, as we know. Exports and imports. The slowdown of exports and imports is not just due to COVID 19. Please remember this. Let me show you some statistics. This is the data of 2019 September, October, November and December. There was a slowdown in both exports and imports. It is because of the global economic slowdown. And over a period of time, the next year, that is in 2020, COVID-19 has hit badly. That has again impacted the import and export situation across the countries. So remember, less growth in imports and exports is not just due to COVID-19, it was there already. Right, this year also, we are experiencing less growth in exports and imports. Now, maybe if we have economic recovery, that can fill in the trade deficit, that can increase the exports and imports across the countries. And this is for today. Tomorrow, Rambabu sir will continue the session. All the very best. Thank you very much.